I'm Cedric Hawkins, and welcome to the CedTalks Podcast. My guest today is a student at the University of Maryland, College Park, good friend of mine, and a very driven individual. Her drive and passion is inspiring, and I can't wait to catch up with her. So without further ado, here is Marissa Kasulke. Marissa, welcome to the show.
Hi, Ced. Hello, everyone listening.
Yeah. How you been as of late?
I've been good, a little stressed with school and everything, especially with COVID and it being online, but I've been pushing through.
Yeah, same here. I mean, this has been 6 months in the making trying to get you on the show. Our schedules, They haven't been lining up, but this was just the perfect timing. It's winter break. We're just chilling, so I'm glad to be able to do this.
Yes, I'm very excited too.
How was your holidays with your family?
It was good. Again, it was very COVID friendly. We had to do everything with 6 or less people, I think it was we did. But yeah, I had a good time. I got to spend time with family. So overall it was pretty relaxing, and I'm also not taking any winter classes. That's my first time in years not taking a winter class, so it's very relaxing.
Yeah, surprise, because we were at CSM together, and you were always taking classes just left and right. I was like, man, she never gets a break. But it's great to hear that you're actually taking the time to practice self-care and just relax.
Yeah, it's definitely, when I first started without taking a winter class, I didn't know what to do with myself, because I was typically I'm doing classwork, I have a routine, but now I just have all this free time. So I've been doing a lot of self-care, going to the gym, having date nights for myself or anything like that, so hanging out with friends. So yeah,
that's what I was last year, because last year I didn't take any winter classes, and I was just so it's what do I do with myself, I've been diving myself into school, and it was kind of weird at the time, but I appreciated that time, because it was only then that I realized I need this. I don't have to be on the grind day in and day out. I do deserve that time to just rest and just chill out for a little bit.
Yeah, and I definitely think it's something that this last fall semester, I was very burnt out by the end of it. I had no motivation whatsoever. So I think I needed this time off to kind of build my motivation back up to finish off my time at University of Maryland.
Yeah, for sure. How was that with, being on campus, right? Everything was online. Was it difficult for you in any way?
So it wasn't extremely difficult for me personally, because like you said, we went to CSM together. I did take winter and summer classes, and those are mainly online. So I have a history of taking classes online. So it wasn't that difficult of a transition for me. But I know other students at University of Maryland, my friend Tessa, and her group of friends, they just hated it absolutely, because they've always taken classes in person.
Right.
And I know a lot of people don't learn well online. I just happen to be a person that I do learn well, and I like going at my own pace.
Yeah.
So it I wasn't bothered by it.
I think that was our kind of benefit at CSM, was we always did online classes just because we always wanted to catch up and find our way out of there. And it benefited us in a lot of ways, because once the shutdown happened, it was we already know what to do pretty much. We know how to work at our own pace without the guidance of a professor. So it worked out well.
Yeah, we definitely had that internal motivation piece where it was we don't need to be going to class to be motivated to do the work. And I think both of us honestly are very driven people.
Yeah.
And I think we're both very intelligent, and so we like learning. So I definitely think this whole transition to COVID safe classrooms wasn't that big of a transition for me.
Yeah, exactly. And so when it happened back in March, that was your first semester pretty much out of CSM.
Yes.
So how did that impact you when everything got shut down?
So I definitely do not have the connection to College Park that other students do. I'm kind of, I'm graduating in 3 years.
Yeah.
I was very driven to get out, and I think I was a little weary about going to College Park, because I was what if I have a ton of fun? What if I'm going to regret graduating early? But I think that my first semester, it being cut short, I didn't get the opportunity to join things on campus, or even, I didn't get an opportunity to go out a lot with friends, just because it was 2 months that I was there.
Right.
And so I'm not very tied to College Park, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
Yes, I do think their curriculum and education that they give is very good. I just don't necessarily, I'm not in love with the school.
Right.
But I do think it was a lot in part to COVID, and that the fact that I didn't get any relationships with other students while I was there in those 2 months. So yeah, it definitely was impacted.
Yeah, I would say with me with CSM, I was doing 5 classes at the time. Something I was pretty used to, but I was pretty much burnt out at that point. Yeah. And so once the shutdown happened, I was like, oh, this is great. I get to go home and actually work at my own pace. Yeah. And then graduation was taken away from me. And I had just gotten my Honor Roll Society medals and all of that. So I was pretty much ready to, show off on graduation day. So when that was taken away from me, that really affected me. Yeah. Because I had worked so hard at 2 years at that point. You knew how hard I worked. Yeah. And so for that to be kind of taken away, it hurt in a way, but I'm still proud that I was able to make it out of there in the middle of a pandemic.
Yes, I will agree with you. And I personally, for me, I'm a little worried about this semester because I'm supposed to graduate from College Park.
Gotcha.
And I do not think there's going to be a graduation. Or it'll be like one of those online ones. And it's just not the same. I do think that like whether it's like an associate's or like a bachelor's or like whatever, like you worked extremely hard for that degree. Exactly. And it's going to take you farther in life. So I do think it's like we are deprived of our graduation and like the celebration that's supposed to be about us. Yeah. So I'm not excited. Like I'm a little nervous about that. But I still I'm like determined to have like graduation photos and everything, because again, I did work very hard to graduate in 3 years. Yeah. So
Yeah, and with me, I didn't even have a graduation party because of COVID. And then when I graduated high school, I was against having a party. I was like, no party. I don't want to celebrate. It's just a high school graduation. And it's now coming around, it's I recognize all the hard work, waking up early in the morning to do a paper or staying up late at night. It's I want to celebrate that. Yeah. I couldn't even have a party because of COVID. Yeah. But it's you know what? It is what it is. I got my graduation cards and whatnot, and people actually recognize the work that I put in. So at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Yeah, I do think it's about recognition, and I don't know, it's nice to be, I don't want to say appreciated, but known for the hard work that you've put in. Yeah. And I'm the same way. I did not have anything when I graduated high school. I was no, college graduation is going to be the big one. Yeah. I had planned for a college graduation. So it's definitely, I don't know, it's definitely changed my plans a little bit. Right. But I'm still pushing.
Yeah. Yeah. What were some of the things that kept you grounded and encouraged during those times in quarantine, during that March to June period before stuff really started to open back up?
That's kind of a tough one. I would definitely say what kept me sane while being in quarantine. I did still work out every day. Obviously it was at home, and I obviously don't have a home gym or anything. And so I had to kind of make use of what I had. And then I started going on these 4-mile walks every day. So that was just something that was very nice to clear my head, especially with being locked up in a house. And it was I live in a very small house, so it was all 3 of my family members were there, sometimes my mom's boyfriend, just very cramped. And I don't know, it was just very nice to clear your head at the end of every day, because I would do it in the evening. Especially since it when the quarantine started, it was March and we were still in school. Right. It was just that transition to the online platform. But no, I would definitely say that exercise, and I guess you could count that as self-care, did keep me grounded and keep me sane. I would also say thinking of my family, because although I'm not so concerned about COVID for myself, I think if I were to get COVID, I would most likely be fine, or I hope I would be fine. Yeah. Because I am young and I try to be healthy and all of that. But I worry about my family. Yeah. I have my older grandparents or my poppy and all of them, and I don't want to ever get them sick and it'd be my fault. So I did staying in quarantine, I had to kind of talk to myself and have myself remember that I'm doing this for other people. It's not just for myself. So yeah, it was really tough though.
Yeah, I agree, especially with the exercise part, because with me, I've always been a runner, so going to the gym didn't affect me as much. Yeah. But I had tons of friends and cousins who literally go to the gym 5, 4 times out of the week. And so like now they have to stay home. That's their sacred ground. That's where they get to kind of release, and now they have to be cooped up in the house. So I definitely empathize with that, because that's part of your routine, and then once that's taken away, it's just like, well, now what?
Yeah. And me, like at CSM, every day I was like going to the gym after like class or whatever.
Every day.
Yeah, I typically go like about like 5 to 6 days a week. Like it's a nice like stress reliever for me. And I think it was also really hard because I didn't get to see my friends a lot during like quarantine either, because you also figure like, my best friend like Alexis, like her mom works at the hospital. Yeah. Like that's something that they like wanted to be like careful about. And then my like friend Tessa, she was living up in DC at the time. But so I didn't get to see my friends a lot, which was also probably for the best, like in terms of like how like the COVID spike.
Yeah.
But no, it was definitely hard, and I'm glad we're like I'm hoping we're like kind of towards the end of the tunnel, like the light at the end of the tunnel, with like the vaccine and everything being out.
Yeah.
But I still think we're gonna have like the rest of the year, I think it's going to be like recouping from this like quarantine and COVID spike.
Yeah, I agree. It's just about recovery. I think the numbers are still going up. Like I still have a ton of anxiety when I go out and whatnot, but I still stay home because at the end of the day, like you said, I'm doing this for my family members, for my mom and my grandparents who I see on a weekly basis. So it's all about recovery this year. I don't think it's going to go away within a year.
Oh yeah.
Not maybe another 2 years probably, but we're doing what we can, making the most out of it.
Yeah, and I definitely want to touch on like how you said like when you go out, like you kind of get like anxiety. I'm like the same way. Like I can't even imagine going out to like bars or like going out anywhere there's like a ton of like crowded people.
I don't get how they do it.
Yeah, like I can't, like I mean I used to be able to do those things, but like now I think about it and I'm like, oh my god, like COVID, I could get it and then I could pass it to my family members. So it is like something that's like, I think it's rewired a lot of people's brains, and it's like changed the social setting.
Yeah.
And I think it's especially hard for us because we are in college. Like we are supposed to be like going out, like having the time of our lives. And we just like can't.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's tough.
Yeah. I want to talk about a time when there was no COVID. Your childhood growing up here in Calvert County, what was that like for you as a kid?
So I moved here when I was 3 years old. Before I lived up in Annapolis. But I mean, my time here was it was great. I will recognize I did have like a lot of privilege. I grew up like in a 2-parent household. And then I had like a brother who was like, kind of like my built-in friend, like he had to play with me. And then, like financially, we weren't like well off or anything, but we were like comfortable. We had like a nice house and like, we had all the pets. So my time in Calvert County was definitely great growing up, and I had neighbors who I would like go to their house every day. I have a lot of fond memories here in Calvert County. Going off of that, I love Calvert County in the sense of like it's like my home where I grew up. Do I want to stay here forever? Like not really. But it's given me a lot of good memories, and I think whether it's from my childhood or even like high school, I'm thankful that I had what I did.
Yeah, I agree too. Like, I'll admit too, like, I lived a very privileged life growing up. I was very blessed to have 2 parents in the household, great household, both sets of grandparents. Like, most kids my age don't really get to experience that. So I was blessed to experience that. And most people, they crap on Calvert County, right? They say that it's a terrible place, like, oh, there's nothing to do here. And it's like, I like the simplicity of it. I like the quietness of everything. But as you touched on, like, this is home, but I do want to expand my horizons. Just get out and travel and just see the world. Yeah,
it's definitely, I think this is a place I will 100% admit that it's a really good place to raise families and to like when you're ready to settle down, like Calvert County is great. Because you figure like you're close to the water, you're close to like mountains, like you're in driving distance of like everything, I feel.
Right.
But like for like our age group, like there's not much to do.
Yeah.
But it is like, I don't know, it's definitely that like small town homegrown like feeling.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do want to go out and experience other things. And like my thinking of it is that, like I said, like this place will always be home, but I want to go out and like experience other things, maybe like live a couple different places, and if I want, I can always come back here. Like I'll always have family here. I'll always have like roots. So if I ever, decide, I'm ready to like settle down, I'll just move back.
Yeah, for sure. Touching back on earlier in the year, you actually lived out of the county. You lived on campus, I would say, or in an apartment away from home. How was that experience? Did you have any homesickness, or did you adjust well to being away from home?
So I wouldn't say I had homesickness. It was definitely a transition because I was used to like constantly being surrounded, especially with quarantine. Like I was constantly with my mom and my brother. So it was a different environment. I will say I did enjoy it because I liked the College Park is more of like a city living type situation. Not the nicest city, but it is city living. And I just, in Calvert County, we have to drive everywhere we go. We are not in walking distance of anything. And I just thought it was so like crazy that like, I can walk like 2 blocks up and like I can go to the grocery store. Like I can walk to the grocery store. I can walk to like my favorite restaurant. I can do this. So it was definitely eye-opening that like, I guess like I knew that like other places were different from Calvert County, but it was like I had never lived it. So living it was definitely like an eye-opener and kind of made me also realize like things I don't like about like city living, but things that I do like about city living. Like I enjoy being close to everything and like being able to walk everywhere. I don't necessarily enjoy like the small apartments because I like having a bigger space to do things.
Right.
So there's just a lot that I learned from it, and I'm glad I did because I do think I also learned to be more independent. I feel as if I'm already like kind of an independent person, but that taught me, like how to manage my time in a way that I never have before, like doing grocery shopping, running errands such as like, I don't know, like doing my laundry or like I'm trying to like home shopping. Like I literally went home decor shopping, stuff that I typically don't do around here.
Right.
So it taught me a lot.
Yeah, I'm glad you had that experience. Like, it's like ever since I've graduated high school, like that time period of like 2018, I had like this biggest fear of being independent and just like being on my own in a way. And it's like, now I'm pretty much doing it. Like I've checked off the boxes of doing grocery shopping, paying bills, like all of that. And it's like the one thing I haven't done is lived on my own, like away from family. And like some of them, they want me to get that experience, but it's like that part of me just doesn't know if I'm ready for that yet.
Yeah.
But I'll only know if I really get into it. Obviously with COVID, it's really difficult to do that.
Yeah.
But, who knows, sometime down the road, I'll move down to Bowie and get that experience.
Yeah. And I definitely think that I expected the homesickness to be kind of a bigger role because, like I said, I'm constantly surrounded by my family. So I did expect to kind of have that like realization where it's like, oh, like I kind of miss being around like them all the time. But I truthfully didn't have that just because I was constantly texting my mom or she was texting me. Like I feel like technology in that way like kind of aids that like part of it, like moving out on your own.
Oh yeah, for
because
sure.
you can constantly communicate with like your siblings or your mom and your dad and like all of them, and like FaceTime's like a thing. I also think it did help that like I was only like 45 minutes to an hour away.
Yeah.
It'd be probably a little different if I moved, like halfway across the country or something.
Yeah.
But no, I definitely think it taught me a lot.
Got you. And so when you think about your family growing up, what were some of the morals and values that they instilled in you? Some traits that you still carry to this day?
Well, I definitely think a lot of people in the county know my mom.
Right.
She's a very, very friendly person. And so from like a young age, she always taught me, like treat people how you want to be treated. And that's a very, like, I feel like a lot of parents teach that. But I think my mom lived by it too, which helped in that because I would see her treating people that she necessarily didn't get along with, but she would treat them with like respect and like kindness. So that kind of taught me to be, as respectful as I can, even if I don't necessarily agree with somebody. I don't know. I think my mom has instilled like a lot of moral values into me that have made me the person I am today. A lot of that does stem from like treating people with kindness and being respectful and never deliberately trying to hurt someone. Because like I think, I don't know, like I know there's like that whole like kind of like cheesy quote, but it's like, you never know what somebody else is like going through.
Yeah.
And so she has kind of raised me on that. Like, to be as kind as you can.
Yeah. It's a nice thing to be able to just treat somebody with kindness, even if you know that they're just a very bad person or they have like these radical thoughts and whatnot. Just being able to say like, hey, how you doing? Just acknowledge them with like a smile. I've had times where I've had bad days and someone will come up to me and be like, hey, Ced, like, what's up, Ced? I'd be like, oh, hey, like, how you doing? And then that brightens my day, because like someone's happy to see me, even though deep down I'm feeling like crappy inside. It's a very rewarding feeling.
Yeah, and I definitely think that like a lot of that, like, as you know, my major is like psychology, and so a lot of times like we'll be like either watching TV or even just like actually like talking to a person, like afterwards, like I necessarily don't agree. Like, to me, they may come off as like I don't want to say a difficult person, but just like they have maybe different like values than me. They come across as maybe more like aggressive, or just like, I don't want to say mean, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure.
But like I kind of, because of like the moral values that my mom has instilled to me, I kind of sit there and I'm like, well, like, you know, like he could be like going through this today, or, you know, maybe it's because of this. If I know anything about him or her, like I will be like, oh, well, maybe it's like this from when they like were growing up. Like that's like kind of like the psychology brain of mine, where I look at it from so many different angles, and that I think allows me to be more accepting of people and to treat them like the best way I know how to. Yeah,
I'm not a psychology major, but it's always like I'm like psychoanalyzing somebody in my mind mentally. Like, I'm big into books now. Like, I'll read different characters. I'm like, I wonder what their backstory is. Like, why are they acting this way, or like behaving this way? And then like, it's nice to know that I'm not the only one who thinks that way, because I took an English class last semester, and my professor was like, oh yeah, I do the same things. I was like, like, it's very interesting to get into like the brain and see how it functions.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's just, and I think it tells you a lot about the person. It could be like the smallest detail, but then you could be like, oh, well, that's why they think like this, they act like that. So I think, I don't know, it's just, I try to be as accepting as I can.
Yeah.
So yeah.
School life here in Calvert County, everybody has opposing views on it. How would you describe your time within the Calvert County public school system?
So I wouldn't say I had any real like issues with my school like time in Calvert County. I think Calvert County is a really good school system in terms of like the curriculum, the education, and like obviously our test scores. And this is something that I find really interesting, because as you know, like my mom's a principal now, but was a teacher, and sometimes I tune in to the Board of Education meetings, and I just I'm shocked at how they think about some things. Yeah. Because it just makes no sense to me, and I think I've said, like I said earlier, like we're both very intelligent people. Yeah. And I think that sometimes when you hear like these people who are literally in charge of like the youth's like education and how they like think about things, and you can say like affirmatively like what they're saying or like thinking is wrong because like there's either like studies on it or something. Yeah. I think that's shocking. I do think we have a great education system. Yeah. I wonder in part though a lot of times about how much of that is correlated with the education here, or if it's more so correlated with the fact that Calvert County is a wealthier county. If that makes sense. Yeah. And like there's been tons of studies that are like, you know, like higher SES means that like, you know, like the parents of children typically are more educated, and then they in turn like educate their children from a very young age, which like, you know, shows like higher test scores, all of that. Yeah, exactly. And so I do think that like part of the reason this county is so good with like our test scores and like our grades is because this is a wealthier county. We have a lot of parents here that are like college educated. But again, I enjoyed my time here, especially at Huntingtown High School. You know, middle school's like the weird years that, you know, absolutely transition. But and like I loved elementary school, especially since like, you know, my mom was like a teacher back then, and so she was always there in like the school with me. But yeah, no, I thought it was great. I enjoyed my time with Casey Golden, the gym teacher. Loved like her as a teacher. I loved, I had Kerwin. He was, like, pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I have no bad memories from, like, Calvert County schools.
Yeah, your mom actually taught me, like, I think I did speech in 2nd and 3rd grade because
Okay.
I had, like, a stutter, and I remember always being in there with her, and she would always help me out. She was always so nice and sweet to me.
Yeah. She used to be the, I can't remember, like, reading specialist, I think it was.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so it was, but, like, having her in the school, even though I never had her teach me, it was just nice to know that she was, like, close by, especially when you're that young.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of times you just want to be around your parents.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. And then, like, high school, that's, like, I still talk to a lot of people that I went to high school with. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I talk to you, like, there's, like, a couple other people. Like, I have my 2 best friends. Like, so I definitely think I had a pretty, like, good time with Calvert County schooling.
Yeah. Do you still keep in touch with some of your mentors here in any way?
Not really.
Uh-huh.
I wish I did, but I truthfully don't. And I definitely think that progressing to college gave me more mentors.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, I think we both had Professor LaCroix.
Yes, I was gonna get on to her later on.
Okay, yeah, no. I loved her.
Yeah.
And I think I would consider her a mentor in like both like the English domain and then also like the women's studies domain. So, I don't know. I just don't really keep in touch with a lot of my mentors from here. I'll see them once in a while, like when I'm out, obviously, because we live in such a small county.
Exactly.
And like, again, like we talk and like we'll catch up and stuff, but it's not like a regular thing.
Right, I feel you. It's only like a few here. Like I have Kerwin's number, Coach Tobias, I have his number.
Okay.
We're actually cousins, which I didn't know until this year, so that's pretty cool. And just a few teachers that I keep in touch with, keep tabs with here and there.
Yeah.
Just because they made such a profound impact in my life, and however I can use them to continue to get by in life, that'll help me out.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that.
You work out a lot, right? Nutrition and exercising, that's a big proponent of you. Do you ever find it difficult to balance those things with school on top of managing a social life?
I would say sometimes. I think I don't really look at like nutrition and like working out as like something that's like kind of like a task that I have to do. To me, it's like a huge like stress reliever. Yeah. And well, at least the working out part is. And then like the eating right, that's just sorry, I was gonna live that. But the eating right, that's sorry, I'm gonna let it pass.
No, you're good.
But no, the eating right thing is just, I mean, I try to eat intuitively, if you know what that means.
Yeah.
So it's like the kind of like, you eat like well most of the time, like, and I wouldn't even say well as in like good, but like more like nutritious foods. And then, you can like, if you want like a cookie, eat a cookie. Like,
right.
And I think the reason I value nutrition is because it makes me feel good. I think, not that like, I'm not like hating on anybody that eats like, fast food or anything like that, because I will agree it's like good. Right. But I will not feel good about like internally. I wouldn't even say like externally. Just internally, I will not feel good if I eat like that. So I more so see it as something that's kind of like a self-care. So it's not necessarily a task for me. And I think that's why it's not so stressful to balance it. Right. And I also, like I typically do like working out and everything like that after like I finish school. Yeah. Because I think first off, like I said, it's like a stress reliever after I've like completed maybe like a stressful day, or not even like a not stressful day. It's just nice to do something, especially when you're sitting down for most of the day for school. Yeah. But I also just, I love my workouts, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Yeah, like I make a point to work out only do workouts that I know I will enjoy. I don't like ever want to be like going through a workout and be like, I hate this. Like I want it to be finished. Yeah. So I'd make it a point to do that too. And then for the social life thing, I mean, I think it's like the same thing. Like all of my friends are kind of the same way, if that makes sense. we all, you know, work out like pretty regularly, and we also like during the week, that's like our like school, like we are focused on school, but when the weekend comes is typically when we will like hang out or like go out or something like that.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good way to balance it with like diet. With me, it's like I've completely like changed my life with diet within the last like year and a half, basically, because I used to be that one who always just ate fast food, no fruits and vegetables whatsoever, even though that's what I grew up eating on. But it was like that final semester at CSM, close to like the final semester, like my body started just changing on me because of the way I was eating and not frequently exercising the way I should have been. So that's when I decided to just change my life around and do that. And it's done just wonders for me. Like, I'm more energized. I don't feel as lethargic or sluggish. And it's like, even now, like this year I started cooking breakfast. I mean, I would snack on fruits and whatnot. Now I'm cooking omelets and stuff, scrambling eggs and all that with my fruit. And it's like, I feel more energized, like ready to conquer the day. So it's changed my life in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And I agree with you on like I grew up eating like fast food. Like, nobody in my family has ever necessarily cared about what they put into their body. And I don't mean that in a negative way. They've just never really thought about it. Yeah. And it's just kind of like whatever's like convenient, which is like, I also think is important when like you know, work a full-time job, and then you also like have like errands you need to run, like things you need to take care of. So I do understand the convenient part. And I think that's why, like, even if I do get fast food, I try to make like the healthier decisions, like, you know, like a salad or something grilled, or just like, you know, but I do think like, again, I think like diet and like, or diet, nutrition, and like working out, it needs to fit with your lifestyle. Right. And I think that's like what's key to keeping it like consistent and making you feel your best. Yeah.
Same with my family too. Like my family, we got histories of diabetes, high blood pressure. They just like, they like the foods with high fats in it. Like the fast foods, the fried foods and all that. And I've gotten my grandfather to wean off of that. Like, to eat more salads from Chick-fil-A instead of eating the chicken sandwich, you know, with grilled chicken nuggets in it. Like, that's what's going to help you out, and that's what's going to fuel your body. And it's something that I like, as well as exercise too. Like, besides jogging, I do upper body stuff besides cardio, but I still value my cardio because that's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me moving.
Yeah. See, I've never been a big cardio person.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Like, I admire people that love to run. Yeah. I've never been that like girl that loves to, you know, go on a couple mile run. I'll go on a couple mile walk and I'll be fine. But like, so when I typically go to the gym, I do like resistance training or like weightlifting. Yeah. But yeah, again, like, I think it just needs to fit in with your life. And I have tried making like, or not, I don't want to say making, but like influencing my family and what they eat. Because my family also has like a history of, you know, like heart disease or like anything like that. Yeah. So I've started cooking dinners Monday and Wednesday, and they're usually pretty healthy. And like, I cook for my family. Yeah. So, you know, it's a step in the right direction.
That's what I need to do, cook dinners. I don't feel like cooking dinner. As soon as I get off from work, I'm tired. Oh, yeah. But it's what I got to do, you know? Because I'm weird. Like, I can't eat after certain times at night because I like to go to bed early. And then, like, if I eat at like 8:30 or 9 o'clock, let's say, I can't go to sleep. And then I'm up in the middle of the night. So it's weird. I'm like a baby. Like, I have to have a certain type of schedule in order just to get by.
Okay, I will say I don't think that's necessarily weird because I'm kind of like that. Like, I typically eat dinner like around like, I think it's like 6. Yeah. And then but I don't like to eat after 9. Like, I will not. Yeah. It's nothing, I don't believe in any of those like diet things where it's like, oh, don't eat after 9. I just don't, like, I don't know. It's just something that I don't like doing because then it's like you go to bed and like, you know, it affects your sleep. So
exactly. And so shifting gears from that, during your time here at Huntingtown, I want to say maybe senior year, if I'm correct, you had plans of going to the University of Tennessee, and those plans fell through. Talk to me about that.
So it was very, I don't want to say it was awful, because I think in like the long run, it was what I needed, because senior year had a lot of trouble deciding on where I would go. Like, I truthfully like didn't know where I wanted to be, and I didn't know what I really wanted to do. I had actually wanted to do psychology, junior year, and then I kind of had decided, and I applied to all of my colleges with the idea that I was going to be doing psychology. But then I talked to a lot of people, like, and they were like, oh, well, you like will never get a job with psychology. and it kind of freaked me out. So what happened with like University of Tennessee was basically like I tried to change my major, but the major that I wanted to change to was interior design, which is also something I like. And they said like, no, like you'll go to like UT for, you know, like a year, maybe the first semester, and then they'll change you. But it was because like they wanted, like, I don't want to say they wanted, but it was like more so I think the money aspect. It was like if I did change like right before I got there, I would be getting in-state.
Right.
And then also they had, is it over-accepted is like the right word?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes. And so they didn't have housing. And because I had, like I said, I like was kind of stressed. I didn't know where I wanted to go. I put my like deposit in on literally May 1st.
Eesh.
So I did it really late because I like kind of just panicked. And because I put it in late, it means that I was like last pick for like housing. And so I didn't like, I would have gotten housing, but it wasn't like permanent housing. Like they were going to put us up somewhere until like, you know, either like students like, you know, kind of like dropped out or like transferred, something like that, or until they got it figured out. And then I think the last straw was kind of like my roommate, the girl I was supposed to room with, she decided not to go there. And so I don't know. I think it was just a lot of factors, but in the long run, I do think it was what I needed because I didn't know what I wanted to do exactly. And my first semester at community college, I bounced off a lot of things. Like I was like, oh, I'm going to do communications. I'm going to do like interior design. I'm going to do, you know, speech pathology. But then I eventually landed back on like psychology. And I was like, you know what, like I'll just go to grad school because like pretty much with a psych degree, you need to. But yeah, it was hard not going away to UT like I had planned because I don't want to say I felt like, I don't know, I definitely felt lonely, if that makes sense. Because,
I agree.
Like, all of my friends had gone away. And even if they didn't go super far, even if they just went to UMD, it wasn't like I was seeing them as frequently as I used to. So it was definitely a big transition that I, like, struggled with, if that makes sense.
No, I agree with you. I was the same way because I wanted to go to Bowie State. And then, you know, my mom knew really deep down, like, I don't really do well with people. I still don't really do well with them, but I'm more, you know, social. But at the time, I wasn't ready to live in a dorm, you know, with some guy that I didn't know, having to share my own space. Like, I like having my own space. I like my independence. So she was like, why don't you start off at CSM, you know, maybe mature in that aspect, get your associates, and then from there we can do the next step. And so I was like, okay, that's fine. And so that first semester at CSM, you know, it was great, but like you said, it was a huge transition, you know, away from my friends. Some of them went away. Some of them had different classes than me. You know, I'm with classes with people that I don't really know, I'm not really acquainted with. And so it did get lonely at times, especially the workload too, because I never had work like that. It was definitely stressful. So I know where you're coming from. Yeah.
And I just think that, again, I think it was definitely what I needed. And also, I'm kind of like, I think this is like one good thing about going to community college. We didn't have to do dorm life.
Yeah.
I've heard nightmare and like horror stories from dorm life, so that's like a good thing. And I'm like you, I like having my own space. So even when I did live up at College Park this past semester, I lived in an apartment that was a 4-bedroom, 4-bath. So we all had our own room, our own bath. I didn't have to share with anyone. The only like shared space was like the kitchen. So, no, it was definitely tough, and like, I don't regret not going to UT Knoxville. It was definitely the right decision for me. I do like think about it sometimes. I'm kind of like, like what would my life be like if I was like there? And like, let's say I had like changed my major to like interior design. Like sometimes I like to think about it, but I do think I made the right decision in the end. Yeah, it's weird how life works like that, where we have this one plan, then that plan goes up into shambles, and it's kind of like, now what? And you get taken down this new direction, and you don't think it's going to work out, and you completely hate it for a while, but then it kind of grows on you, and then you start to, you know, appreciate, you know, what you're doing now, and it's like, oh, okay, like maybe this was the right move for me to take. Yeah, and I definitely think like with going to Knoxville, like my concern wasn't necessarily that I would have an issue like living away from home. I actually think I was like pretty okay with that. It was just the struggle with like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I also, you know, I think that when you're a freshman going to a campus where you know no one, it's especially stressful. And then you like have decisions like, do I want to like do Greek life? Do I want to join clubs? Do I want to do this? Like, and then there's like the football games. And so it's just, I mean, I think it's a different experience than obviously that I've had.
Yeah.
But I also think like those decisions like kind of stressed me out like before I even got there. Like I was thinking in May, like after I put my deposit down, I was like, do I rush? Like, do I join a sorority? Do I, you know, do something like with the like football team? Because they do have like things with that. So I don't know, like it definitely was not the right timing, I guess you could say. Like if I, you know, maybe was very sure about what I wanted to do at that time, I definitely would have gone.
Yeah.
It was just that I didn't know.
Yeah, I think one of the most, I don't know what the word to say. I don't want to say it's versatile, but I think one of like maybe it's controversial, but I guess one thing about CSM is that, you know people there, and some people don't like that, and some people like that. To me, I just looked at it as, okay, I guess this is a clean slate, because, you know, I'm with people who I knew in high school, but they don't really know me that well, and it was like, here's my chance to, you know, get to know them. Yeah. And I had known you from like elementary school, and we had like every single class together Monday and Wednesday, so I was like, you know what? We're in these 3 classes together. I might as well stick with you.
I was going to say, and then we ended up taking like all the class or like some classes the next few semesters, you know, all together.
Exactly.
So, no, it definitely was. Like, I kind of looked at it like a clean slate too, especially in terms of like my grades. Like throughout high school, I mean, I was an average student, but I also didn't put forth the effort. I was kind of just like making it by, because in my head, I know this may sound awful, but like in my head, I was like, you know, I'll end up somewhere. You know, some college somewhere will take me. Like, so I knew that no matter what, I'd be like, okay. So like I had like an average GPA, like it was, you know, like I made it through. I like passed with A's and B's, you know, but when I got to college, I was like, you know what, I'm going to actually, you know, maybe actually try. I don't want to say try, but like, you know, I wanted to put forth that effort to maybe try to get like straight A's. And I think that was also a big like turning point for me that I'm also glad I didn't go away to college for, because I do think that if I had, I probably wouldn't have put forth that effort with like getting, you know, a 4.0 or like a 3.9, like, you know what I mean? Yeah,
I would say taking classes with you really pushed me and actually challenged me to do my best, because in high school, I was the same way. I had an average GPA, 3.3. Like, I was just there to, you know, do it. And once I got to college, I still had that lack mindset in a way. Yeah. But seeing you always go the extra mile, you know, be in the library, studying, like always doing so well on your exams and your essays, I was like, you know what? I got to get like that. How do I get like that? And I was like, you know what? I got to do my work ahead of time. Instead of doing it the night before or like the last minute, how about I do it a few days ahead of time and just be like her, you know, because it's working out well for her. She's getting good grades. It's going to help her get into her dream school. So how about I do the same? So you always challenged me to do my best.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, it's the truth. It used to be like, it was so competitive in my mind, but I was like, nah, I can't compete like that, you know? I just got to better myself as an individual. And it's done wonders for me as a student now. Like, I just got a 4.0 at Bowie this semester.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, it was all that hard work, but I feel like CSM really prepared me for university. Yeah. Because it's like, I could be doing a discussion post and I could see someone post something and it's like, what's this person talking about? Like, have they not done this before? And it's like, yeah, you know what? They probably haven't. They probably weren't prepared for that. But CSM really helped prepare me for that. Especially Professor LaCroix.
Oh, yeah.
How much of an impact did she have on you?
I would say she had actually a huge impact on me. I would say I loved taking her English classes, but I think the bigger impact she had on me was honestly, like women's studies and like feminism, because I mean, like we took her women's writers class. Yeah, writers course, women's writers, I think. Yeah. And then I feel like also like in all of the English classes that she taught, she integrated like some kind of like feminism or like feminist like piece of like literature, and like I don't know, I think she was very good at choosing the pieces of literature she wanted to review, right? And I think that they always like interested me. I don't know, I definitely think having her kind of changed my perspective, because I had always been like a feminist, but I wasn't necessarily like up to date on a lot of things. Like I paid attention here and there, but it wasn't something that I was very like passionate about. Like I was like, obviously I think women like deserve to be treated equally and like all of that. But after taking her like women's writers course, and then I also took her introduction into women's studies, that just kind of like changed my whole outlook of it. And I think the way she integrated, like, the pieces of literature in the class while also doing, like, kind of like a class discussion type thing where it was very open, like, feel free to say whatever, like, this is kind of like a safe space.
Yeah.
I think that, like, had a huge impact. And so I actually, when I transferred to University of Maryland, I wanted to do a double major in psychology and women's studies. I ended up not doing it, but I still, like, at University of Maryland, like, when I have to take an elective, I do, like, women's studies classes, because I just think it's just, I guess I'm passionate about it now. I'll say that she, like, kind of made me passionate about a thing that I wasn't, like, before.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved her. I will, like, forever be, like, thankful for all the stuff I learned in her class.
Yeah, same here. She definitely opened my eyes to feminism and women's studies, because as a male, you know, stereotypical men, like, oh, who cares about women? Stop acting like a woman.
Yeah.
And just downgrading, disrespecting women. Taking, you know, her class really opened my eyes to the struggles that women have to face and what they continue to still face, to the point, like, I took my English class last semester, and my professor was like, wow, you're really, like, up to knowledge about the issues of feminism. And I was like, yeah, you know, I took a women's course at my community college, and my professor was really, you know, passionate about it. And in a way that made me passionate about it. I wouldn't consider myself a feminist, but I definitely sympathize and empathize what women continue to deal with today.
Yeah, no, I definitely, it changed my outlook. And I think another great thing that she did was she made it, like, kind of personal, if that makes sense. Like, she didn't talk about it in the textbook kind of way. She wasn't like, feminism is this.
Yeah.
She made it very, like, she was very open about her experiences with, like, how she was being treated as a woman. And, like, you know, she's, like, an older lady, and so she was talking about, you know, how women at one point couldn't get a credit card without their husband's signatures. Like, their husband had to sign off on it. And she thought that was wild that her husband at the time had to do that. But I just think, I don't know, she did a very good job. And I think she also made it, I don't want to say, she kind of made it so that it tied in with, like, our emotions and, like, the emotional side of, like, how we think.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's also, like, something that I'm very passionate about now. But yeah, no, she was definitely probably my favorite college professor so far.
For sure. She really impacted me, because I remember before taking her class freshman year, I would go and rate my professor. Everybody had these terrible ratings about her, and I got freaked out. And so when I walked into her classroom, immediately, like, my guard was up. I didn't want to make any mistakes and whatever. And I think we had our first paper, and I had no idea how to write it, how to format it. And I went into her office, and she sat down, pulled a piece of paper out, and she literally sat down and worked with me through it. Just the fact that, you know, she cared enough just to do it. It showed me her passion for just teaching and showing me the art of literature. It's like, literature is more than just writing a topic sentence, a body paragraph, and a conclusion. You know, you have to dive deep into the story to, you know, explain the meaning and why the story matters in your opinion, not the author's opinion. And so I always appreciated that from her. And just, she gave me great life advice too, just with coping with college and everything when I was in her office.
No, she definitely was, I would say, like, I don't want to say one of a kind professor, but she was somebody who stood out among the other ones that I've had so far, even at University of Maryland. I don't know, I think overall she was, like, a good person, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, like, she had such an impact. And I will agree with you, I did get freaked out too, because I looked her up on Rate My Professor, and everybody was like, oh my god, she's, like, awful, she's so mean, she's, like, a harsh grader. And I was like, oh my god, like, what am I gonna do? Like, but then I think everybody, like, on the first paper, like, got, like, at least a B.
Yeah, at least, like, a B, exactly.
Like, she was actually very understanding. And I think I think her, like, grading technique was interesting too, because I think that she did grade off of, like, technique and, like, what you actually, like, your grammar, all of that. But I think that she also looked to see if you were, like, I don't want to say passionate, but, like, you were kind of devoted to what you were writing about. Like, if she could see that you, like, kind of like hear your voice through the paper, then she was like, I know that you put a lot of effort into this paper.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think she just wanted you to really just learn. She wanted you to learn from your mistakes, because if you kept making the same mistakes, she was going to pretty much mark your paper up and give you the same grade. But if you really wanted to learn what you did wrong, then she would have no problem with helping you. Like one of my professors at Bowie State told me on the first day, was like, look, I'm not here to teach students. I'm here to teach scholars. Like, I don't like students. Students are average. They just sit in the back. They don't do nothing. They just show up. I want someone who's going to show up and they want to learn. They want to be different and unique. And I think, she did a great job in teaching us, us high school students, learning nothing about college, taught us how to be great scholars.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah. And so, during your time at CSM, you were preparing to leave early. And what made you choose College Park as your university?
So truthfully, nothing special. I just kind of I chose it because I knew that for psychology, they had a good program. And like I said, I'm preparing to go to graduate school, and I know grad school is like really expensive. I also do want to go to graduate school outside of Maryland, because I do want to get those other experiences.
Yeah.
And so I kind of looked at it as in like, okay, like I should try to save money. And I had narrowed it down between Towson and University of Maryland. And I truthfully like Towson's campus a lot better. I think, and I like the area of Towson. Like if I were to ever move back to Maryland, especially like when I'm older, I would love to live there. But I kind of decided, I was like, I can't look at it for like the school. Because I knew I was going to shorten my time there too. I've only spent like a year and a half. Yeah. And so I was like, like I need to look at it for like the program. And I knew that University of Maryland's psychology program was, I don't want to say better, but like they have like, the attachment styles that like we've talked about. Yeah. So they have one of the researchers who worked on that working at University of Maryland. So I was like, you know what, like, I just think I'll go to University of Maryland just for the education and only that, because my original plan was actually just to commute my entire time I was there.
Okay.
But then I decided to live up there for a semester just to see what it'd be like. But no, it definitely wasn't anything like, I wasn't like, oh, I love the school, like I'm going to go there. It was more so just what's the cheapest, what's going to give me like the best education, and what's going to, be, I don't want to say easiest for me, but like as in like time, like commuting and stuff.
Yeah.
What's going to be like the like least time, I don't know, strickening or whatever.
Yeah, no, I feel you. There must be something about Towson, because literally everybody I know goes to Towson. It's insane.
Yeah, no, I like the area of Towson a lot, and I have family up there, and it reminds me, especially of like West Towson, which is kind of like the more historical homes. They just, I don't know, it kind of gives me like small town feel, like vibes or whatever, but it's definitely still a city. Like you can walk to things, like,
Yeah.
But yeah, I just, if I had thought about it, and actually for graduate school, I am applying to Towson just kind of as like in case, like I decide I don't want to leave Maryland. But yeah.
Got you. What are some of the goals that you have for yourself now that we're in the new year? It's 2021. What are some things that you hope to achieve this year?
It's a bit hard. Okay. Well, as for like my New Year's resolutions that I've like made, I think like 3. My first one was actually to cook more, because I actually do enjoy cooking. I see it as like a self-care activity. So that was like one thing that was kind of like my goal, and I've been trying to stay on top of. Like I cook dinner, like I said, Monday and Wednesdays, and then I will do other days. But those are like in my household, that's like kind of like our schedule. So definitely that. And truthfully, I wanted to focus more on myself for like the new year. I think in the past, I don't want to say I've worried a lot about like what other people think of me, but I have worried about like, how I look to other people, or like how can I like please somebody else.
Right.
And so I would say my biggest goal for like 2021 is that I just want to be happy with myself, and kind of, I want to put myself first. And I think, truthfully, I deserve it.
Right, exactly.
So I would say that's like probably my biggest. and just like, participating in like self-care activities, like in different kinds. Like everybody knows about like a self-care night where you do like a face mask or something. But there's also like different things. Like I think, like I said, working out's one. Even like taking yourself on like a date or something, you know, like going out by yourself, going to a restaurant, like anything like that. So I would say, that's my goal. And obviously I want to like graduate, like and everything. And just, I want to try to end like with a good GPA. And then like hopefully proceed to graduate school, and hopefully it's like my dream school. But, so.
Yeah, I feel you. All right, one question before I get to my final question.
Okay.
Do you like scheduling? Do you schedule your days out? Because that's something I've been getting into towards late last year, end of this year, just scheduling stuff out to keep myself more focused on my day. Is that something you do?
Yes, I definitely do that, especially, so I haven't been doing it recently, or like, actually, it was just since break, because like I said, I'm not taking a class. I kind of wanted to take this time to like relax and do like what I need to. But there definitely are, like, when I get into like the school year, and even now, like once in a while, I will schedule out like a day. I am somebody that kind of likes routines and schedules. So like, even like I said, I was cooking more. I will literally like put out my schedule, and then I'll be like, tonight I'm having this for dinner, and like I put like the ingredients and like how, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I definitely do schedule. I think it's very useful, and I think I have like 3 calendars that just like keep myself like on track, if that makes sense. Yeah.
It's insane how I went through CSM with like no routine, no planners, no schedules whatsoever. And it's like, now that my responsibility load is kind of increased, it's like now I plan everything out. It's like I said earlier, I feel like a baby because I'm on schedule with everything.
Yeah.
It's like after this, like I'm probably going to go run and work out, like take in the nice weather, and then I'm going to go to work and print out my project for school, and then just do some rest. It's like the simple things like that. That's just what keeps me structured, and it keeps me organized. And I don't feel like frazzled or anything, because I used to feel like that all the time if I couldn't remember what I needed to do.
Yeah, definitely.
And so my final question to you before I go ahead and let you go. This is a really great conversation. I loved it.
Oh, I know. I was very nervous for this podcast, but I'm actually pretty calm now. I feel like it's just a conversation.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I told you beforehand. Is that, if you could offer a piece of advice to anybody going through some type of turmoil or struggle, what would you say to that individual?
I definitely think that, no, this is going to sound like cheesy, but I think knowing that eventually it will get better.
Yeah.
Just because, I don't know, I think that there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, and like it may, like, that light may be after like several like turmoils, but it's, I don't know, I think it's just nice like to keep yourself motivated, or even just like keep yourself kind of like composed or held together through like a stressful time or event. It's just to know that eventually it will get better.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think that's what keeps me like composed, is like eventually, I won't have to deal with this. Eventually I'll have like myself together, and I'll like encounter other like turmoils or like stressful events, traumatic events, but like eventually those will be over, and then I'll move on, like, and I'll progress. I think it's about like, I look at everything through like a learning perspective. Like I'm like, just because I'm like struggling right now doesn't mean I'll be struggling in the future, and then it will teach me new like ways to like cope.
Yeah. One of the things my mom always tells me is your health's your wealth, not just your physical health, but your mental health as well. Yeah. I've always been someone that kind of puts on my strong face, and I just keep going on. But, eventually those emotions are going to come out eventually. And so doing different activities to let those emotions come out, or even just talking to people, I think that's what helps me out. That's what gets things better. There's always something. I feel like that's just life in general, but finding ways to, I guess, cope with those emotions is what gets it better.
I definitely think I think every person's different too. Like, some people may like need somebody to talk to. Other people may not want to. Like, I'm typically the type of person where, I do talk to people, but I typically will kind of like put on my strong face, like you said, and like I kind of figure out ways that I can handle it by myself. Yeah. And I will ask for help if like eventually I know like I can't continue like doing it by myself. Yeah. But I do try to handle it alone and independently. Just before I don't want to say bother, because it's not a bother if you're struggling, but it's definitely, I I don't know. It's just, it's every person's different. So I think it's truthfully like up to how you cope with like these things. So,
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this conversation. Like, I'm glad we got to sit down and catch up, and it was just amazing getting to talk with you again.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Like, I'm actually like pretty, like, I feel good about this.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Like I told you, I've been trying to get you on for months now.
I know. We've both been so busy.
Yeah, but I'm glad this was happening. This was episode 70 of the CedTalks Podcast. Stay blessed and stay encouraged, and I'll be back soon.